Nappie Award-winning Port City Plate podcast presented by Bimble Bikes Food Tour, the Port City Plate podcast, serving up the food, history, and people of Mobile, Alabama for people who love the Port City. I'm your host, Chris Andrews, and I'm super excited about this new episode that we've got today on the Port City Plate podcast. Thrilled to be joined by Roy Clark, and Roy is the general manager over at the Haberdasher. And I know most people are familiar with the Haberdasher over there at the corner of Royal and Dolphin Street. But you know, all the great things that are going on over there, and I'm excited to talk to Roy about those. You know, the craft cocktails, the awesome atmosphere that they've got over there. And so I'm excited to dig into all that. But in addition to all those exciting things that Roy's doing at the Haberdasher, he is also the one that's instrumental in starting Tiki Week. And so we've got Tiki Week 2023 coming up here in downtown Mobile, August 14th through 19th. And so, you know, counting down the days for that. We're excited to get into all that talking about Tiki Week. If you're tuning in post Tiki Week, worry not. We're going to talk about all the things, Haberdasher, craft beers, cocktails, talk about the bar scene here in Mobile. I'm super excited about this one. And Roy, thank you for joining me on the Port City Plate podcast.
Yeah, excited to be here. Thank you.
So talk about kind of your journey. You grew up here in Mobile? What's your background?
Yeah, I grew up in Mobile or in Mobile County. I'm from the Irvington Bayou Battery area.
Okay.
So down south.
Yeah.
Fishing community down there. But I've been here all my life. So never lived anywhere else.
Right.
So,
I like that.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been in the bar scene in Mobile?
The best I can recall, I started bartending around 2009, 2010, so 13, 14 years, something like that. Yeah.
And huge transformation since then, really.
Night and day, yeah. Especially downtown.
Talk about how it was back in 2009 when you started.
Yeah, I mean, even then, things were on the upswing a little bit, but yeah, it's nothing like it was today. Like, it was a bit of a desert. When it comes to like quality places to drink or even eat, there have been some good restaurants that are still here that were there and before, but yeah, we've come a long way as a food and drink destination city. So really happy about that.
When did the Haberdasher get started?
We opened at the previous location in 2012.
Okay.
So a little over 11 years ago.
And is that where Mobe Beignet is now?
That's exactly where.
Okay, that's the old location there. Yeah.
Went in there for the first time a few weeks ago. It's kind of a trip.
Well, a little secret. I mean, if you didn't know, there's actually a somebody wrote in the concrete Haberdasher on the floor of Mobe Beignet right there.
That's right.
Yeah, so if you can find that, it's kind of
Easter egg.
Yeah, that's right.
Mobile listeners. Yeah.
Yeah. So go in there and see if you can find that. So you're the general manager at Haberdasher, right? So talk about the early days of Haberdasher. What was it like there at the old location?
Well, we started off on half of a shoestring budget. So we started off no different than any other bar, probably worse off than a lot of them. Very limited selection as far as spirits and beer, but we always knew that the ultimate goal was to become a craft cocktail and craft beer place. So, we just built and built and built. And, at the old place, we were limited on space. Looking back at it, I can't believe the things we were able to accomplish and do in that space. For the longest time, we were operating all bartenders out of one tiny little well. And like I said, looking back, I can't believe it's a nightmare to think about. To be honest with you,
talk about the transition. I mean, how do you grow a bar, especially back in 2012 or when y'all first started? What were some of the things that y'all were doing that were different that were that kind of that you eventually grew out of the space there? Yeah,
as we built that clientele and just built a budget too, got a little money in the bank. We just started expanding our selections, and it wasn't too long before I felt comfortable and bringing in some cocktails. I think the first iteration of our cocktail menu was 4 or 5 drinks on a chalkboard, so not even a proper menu. And then we just built on that, and even that scant amount of selection was still more than you could typically get around town. So I think word slowly got out that we were doing that, and it was definitely new-ish for Mobile. There were some bars or some restaurants rather that were doing some playing around with cocktails and stuff. But we just plugged away at it, and I'm constantly and our bar staff even back then constantly trying to learn and think of new things to do, and we like to travel and go into other places and be inspired, and we just built on that just brick by brick, and then once we did move to the new location, it's much bigger, and so we had a little a room to stretch a little bit.
Yeah.
So stretch we did, and we came out of the gate swinging there, and it was way busier from the jump than we thought it would be, and which was a good thing, but it had some challenges as well. But it definitely kicked me in the ass to get things together, and we've I think exponentially developed our programs based on the patronage of the people of Mobile. So I mean, we couldn't have done this without the business.
Right.
So, yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on, it feels like, and this could be like almost a stereotype a little bit, but 2012, it almost feels like Mobile was just almost a beer city. This is before craft beers were very popular. Yeah. This was very before even $10 cocktails were a thing.
Oh yeah.
So how what was the kind of the struggle in those early days?
Well, you do mention price. That's always been difficult, because to do what we do properly and what other places do as well, you have to use quality ingredients, and they aren't cheap. You can't make really good cocktails with liquor, bottom shelf liquor. So we have to use. We don't use. I'm not saying that we're putting the best of the best in every drink, but our standards are pretty consistent. That we have to stand behind the product by itself before we put it in a drink. So our initial cocktail menu, the average price was probably $8, and there was definitely some pushback there. And now I couldn't put an $8 drink on the menu. I would lose money on it,
That's crazy.
So yeah, we've come a long way. But yeah, also like the stuff that we can get now is a lot better. The ingredients, everything's better. So
yeah,
selection is so much better. Like if you were to walk into an ABC store in 2012 versus one right now, it would be a palpable difference. You could see it immediately.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But I think that's an indication of where we are as an eating and drinking culture, just in general. Everybody is wanting the best and wanting something good. If you want to go out, you want to get the best you can get. So that helps.
That's right.
That there is a demand for it. If there weren't a demand, we would still just be drinking domestic beers and shots or rum and cokes or whatever. So and there's nothing wrong with that either. So
yeah, there's a place for that too. I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wanted you to talk about the process of creating a craft cocktail, from the start to completion, and just kind of what goes into that. I guess I'm most interested in kind of the research and development that you have to do.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, the building blocks of every cocktail that you create has already been put down by the people that have been doing this before, way back into the the 19th century and the late 1800s when cocktail culture started becoming a thing. And practically every drink that you make now can, whether you know it or not, can trace its lineage to a classic cocktail.
There's been an iteration of that drink.
Somewhere. Even if it's at the most basic, your wacky martini or crazy margarita, that's a sour. That was created a long time ago. That's nothing new. So I would say that the first thing is to have a good, strong knowledge of classic cocktails and how they've been made for decades, and in some cases, a century or more. And then you go from there. And personally, I can only speak for myself, my creative process, but I love food and cooking and eating. That's my main hobby, I guess you would say. So a lot of the stuff that I've done in the past has come from a culinary kind of background or basis, I guess you would say. So,
Yeah.
Have something, a great dessert or a appetizer or something at a restaurant or whatnot. I'm like, how can I turn some of these flavors into something that's like potable in a glass, So whether that's vegetal or sweet or sour, all that stuff a lot of that stuff, even savory stuff, can make its way into a cocktail.
Yeah,
So,
that's really cool.
yeah.
How does that translate to your bartenders? How do you train? There's got to be a process of how do you uphold like your quality when you're training your bartenders?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, education is key, and walking them through every step and like explaining why, not just what's in the drink, but why, and how these flavors complement and balance each other out. And as I can't stress enough, teaching them the classics and stuff like that. But yeah, like I think it's also important to make sure that you're hiring people that are creative and that are in it for more than just a paycheck. That have a desire like to create. So and giving them just the resources and knowledge that anything they want. Like I'm always telling my guys, if there's an ingredient you can't find, you want me to source, I'll find it. If you have a concept, let's work this concept out and make it happen. So yeah, just a strong creative types,
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it feels good to create something that people enjoy on a scale that they are, So I think there's some pride in it as well.
Yeah. How long is a training process for a bartender? What?
Interesting question. If
they have a minimal experience.
Yeah, okay. If you've got a little bit of technical experience, and by that I mean like how to like use the bar tools and how to use a jigger and a pour spout and that kind of thing. If you've got a base knowledge of technical skills, it can take no less than probably months to mold you into a workable bartender that can work a shift at my bar.
Right.
Like I said, I can only speak for myself. But you never stop learning. So there's everybody's still in a process of getting better. And but yeah, I guess to put it shortly, months at a minimum.
Yeah.
And then even when you get to the point where we're comfortable with letting you have a bartending shift with another more senior bartender to kind of like keep mentoring you and keep an eye on you. You're still, like I said, you're still growing, and you never really stop that. So
yeah,
it takes a while, and luckily we are in an age where some of these resources that we have more resources now than ever to learn. There's more books than you could possibly consume. There's magazines devoted to magazines and online magazines devoted to cocktails and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and YouTube series, podcasts, you name it. There's like we kind of live in a golden area.
I feel like bartender is definitely an underrated profession. As far as like you mentioned, all the creativity that has to go into it and all the training and learning.
I mean, I would expand to even bartenders that just work super high volume, quote unquote regular bars that aren't doing heavy cocktail work. That's a skill set onto itself. And so I'm usually always very happy to entertain the idea of working with a bartender that comes from that kind of background as well, because that's a skill set that at our bar we do a lot of volume and cocktails, so those two things go hand in hand. So it's different if you're working at a 20-seat intimate little cocktail lounge where everything is like extremely bespoke and made very meticulously. That's not us.
Yeah, most nights at the Hab, there's a line at the bar for sure.
Right,
couple people deep.
We have to put out a high quality product in a minimal amount of time, and that's something that's what I do on the back end, is work on things like that.
Okay.
Like infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of little tricks and tools to make that happen.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk Tiki Week. You started Tiki Week 2013.
Yep.
And so congrats on that. 10 years coming up right now.
10 years in Tiki.
That's awesome. What inspired you to start Tiki Week?
So I definitely came into it from a like mixology standpoint. The cocktails were what initially piqued my interest, because these are very intricately made craft cocktails. I mean, the guys that were doing this in the golden age of tiki in the middle part of the last century, they were doing craft cocktails before that was a term. They didn't know that or think about it that way. So that was very interesting to me, layering all these different ingredients in a way that still comes out balanced and workable. But then, that translated, I mean, as I'm collecting books and, sucking in all this content as much as I can about tiki and its history, I started to appreciate the art and the lore and the culture, et cetera, about it. So for me now, it's a full package kind of hobby. So
yeah,
I'm into it for more than just the drinks.
Right.
I like the whole.
Well,
whole
talk about
package.
what talk about some of the history of that. Like how far back does tiki culture go?
Sure. Yeah. Tiki, I guess you would say, started in the early 30s with a guy named Don Beach, Ernest Raymond Beaumont Gant, I think is his actual name, but he legally changed it to Don the Beach.
That's a good call for him on his part.
And he was originally from New Orleans, but he spent some time in the South Seas and throughout the Caribbean. He was a bootlegger during Prohibition, and he opened the first Don the Beachcomber in the 30s in California, and it was more or less an overnight success. He was an entertainer to the stars, and then your boy Trader Vic came in and basically stole his entire model and created a subsequent kingdom, Trader Vic's. They were all over the world by the 70s. They were literally in almost every continent in the world. But as a culture, it's kind of a mishmash of Polynesian art and island aesthetics mixed with Caribbean rums and tropical, ingredients and whatnot. So,
Yep.
Yeah, and it hit its heyday in the 60s, kind of started dying in the 70s, but by the 80s it was all the way dead. But now we're in another resurgence where it's...
What kind of revived it, do you think?
Say again?
What revived it, do you think?
A number of things. There was a group of people mostly in California, Jeff Berry, Ted Haig, Brother Cleve, Sven Kirsten. These guys were basically doing tiki archaeology, in California before the internet was a big thing. So they were just into it, and they just dug more and more up to it, and they started writing books, and then counter that with the modern cocktail revival that started in the mid-aughts, and it was kind of just perfect storm.
Yeah.
Worlds collide. So bartenders started paying attention to this stuff too. So, and as a bar culture in America, as we kind of got away from the real stuffy, bevested kind of speakeasy type of bar, which I think was a product of us having to prove our worth to a new audience. As that worth was proven and people started going out to craft cocktail bars and adjusting to the prices and whatnot.
Yeah.
Then bartenders wanted to get a little more whimsical, I guess you would say, and get away from that, like I said, stuffy kind of thing. So again, perfect storm, kind of two worlds colliding.
That's cool. That's really neat.
Yeah.
What was the first tiki? Well, it wasn't Tiki Week, right? The first time you did it, so it's Tiki Night, right?
Yeah.
So what was that first year like?
It was great. We had a pretty decent turnout. I think not a lot of people really understood what tiki was, but that was on me to try to kind of put it out there. We did a good bit of decorating, and we had a whole pig that we roasted, and some drinks that now I would probably be embarrassed to serve, but that's how it goes. But yeah, it was great, and it was a lot of work to put that together for just one night. So that's why the very next week we were like, we're doing this for a week.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
How has it evolved since then, since the early days?
Well, we did Haberdasher Tiki Week where it was just us for a number of years, and then I think 2017, I decided to bring some other bars that were doing cocktail programs in, and that did really well. And every year we've added a few more venues, as I call them, bars and restaurants and stuff that have cocktails, and it's really turned into a thing. It's really neat to step outside on a Wednesday during Tiki Week and just see packs of people all dressed up in their floral print shirts and whatnot, walking around and enjoying the tiki culture.
Yeah, it's been a great contribution to our city for sure.
Thank you. Well, it's a labor of love, but so this year we've got like somewhere near 20 different venues, and that includes like not just bars but restaurants and coffee shops and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
it's gonna be exciting. What can we expect from the Haberdasher?
So we. My biggest thing is that I want Tiki is a big part of Tiki is escapism. Like all your classic Tiki bars were windowless, dark, moody, escape bars. So that's what I'm trying to recreate. We black out the windows. I bring most of what I have in my home Tiki bar down to the bar to the Hab. Put that up. We just like really transform the space. I always tell people like you will barely recognize the old Hab when you come into the Tiki room, as we call it. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What about what is that? The decorations. I mean, that's if you haven't seen the decorations at the Hab that week, it's really something to behold.
Yeah, for sure.
So what is how much work goes into that? For y'all that week.
From getting the drinks and the menu and all that kind of stuff put together, that takes a month or more. That takes a while. We're usually thinking about our drink menu months before. So there's that, and then staging everything takes about a week, and then we'll close on the Sunday prior to the start of Tiki Week, and I'll do the majority of the decorating that day, as well as we do a full-on cocktail class with our front of house employees, because they're seeing some of these cocktails for the first time, and they're about to serve literally hundreds of them throughout the next week. So I can't say enough about the crew that we have that they're willing to entertain my whims and go through what's kind of like a bit of a hell week. But and then I finish the decorations the next day on Monday, and usually when we open the doors at 4:00 on Monday, I'm still doing some fine tuning. And typically I'll have to do a little bit every day to build up to the big weekend.
Okay.
So
So it's busiest on the weekend though. That weekend's usually busier than.
Yeah, for sure. It's busier, but there's usually not a slow day. But I do suggest people come in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
To really soak it in,
Right.
But yeah.
You mentioned that you've expanded, to not just bars and restaurants,
Right.
Coffee shops and things like that are going to be involved. So what kind of work goes into that on your end? I mean, that's a lot of work that goes into that.
Yeah. So I'm just an organizer. In some cases, these establishments have come to me and said, "Hey, this is really cool. We would like to join in next year or this year, whatever the case may be." In some cases, I see what these places are doing. I'm like, they would fit in with what we're trying to do here. So I approached them. I think I've yet to have anybody turn me down for it. But yeah, I don't micromanage like what these establishments do as far as their menu or anything like that. But I do try to give them a base of knowledge. Like this is what Tiki is, and this is kind of what we expect. And then I'll leave it up to them. This year, super excited. I finally got together. We're doing like a Tiki 101 symposium for some of the staff of these venues, where I just go up and it's a buddy of me, a friend of mine, Ben Hatch, that he's a rum salesman basically, but he comes from a bar background, and we're gonna give a
that'd be really cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have cocktails and food and all that kind of stuff. So kind of really get everybody in the spirit and give them, like I said, a base of knowledge to kind of like help their creative processes.
Right. Yeah. So, and I guess, how do you ensure though that maybe some of the drinks aren't replicated?
Well, if you might see like multiple Mai Tais or whatnot, for example, that's fine, because I can almost guarantee that they're not going to be the same exact drink.
Just
from
different
bar to
ingredients.
bar. Yeah. I mean, even take a Mai Tai, for example. Typically you use a couple, if not more, rums for a single Mai Tai. So if that rum blend is different at every bar, even if all the rest of the ingredients are the same, even if the recipe, like the specs, as we call it, are the same, if that rum blend is different, then those drinks are going to be different. So
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
And sorry, even if you could make it to all these places and drink every one of these drinks, and you find two that are the same, I'd be more impressed than disappointed.
if you were that dedicated to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and maybe a little concerned.
Yeah. I'm curious too about, because I get, most of the tiki drinks you mentioned, they're rum based, and so they're really sweet. They're known for their sweetness. How do you kind of balance that out a little bit for people who do not enjoy a sweet cocktail?
Well, I think first of all, that probably was born out of some of the dark ages of cocktail drinking in this country in the last part of the last century and the early part of this century, where whereas a properly made tiki drink shouldn't be overly sweet. It should be balanced, just like any other cocktail is. In fact, Don the Beachcomber, who's kind of like I said, the godfather of this, and he was quite the drinks maker. He had a saying: it was 1 of sour, 2 of sweet, 3 of strong, 4 of weak. And that's basically a kind of a template to make sure that your drink is not overly sweet.
Right.
So, yeah.
I know, my wife and I, we went to a cruise a couple weeks ago, man, and they were making the rum-based drinks like that.
Yeah.
Half of it's syrup. That's what's so frustrating about it.
And I guess there's also a difference between just a true tiki drink, and this is a much bigger subject that we're not going to be able to cover here, but the difference between a tiki drink and a boat drink, quote unquote, boat drink. And those are your pina coladas and slushy, overly sweet, syrupy things. There can be some overlap for sure. I'm not saying that there aren't, but that's what we typically consider a boat drink.
What have been some challenges for you? Any challenges that you've had scaling Tiki Week from the one night event to this week long celebration that we have now?
Number one, getting people to communicate with me.
Yeah.
So I really have to stay on top of some of the the people that are in charge of all these venues. So the more venues, the more people I have to wrangle, which is mostly fine, but sometimes they can get frustrated. There's a lot of stuff that has to be done well ahead of time, promotional materials, things of that nature.
You have a stamp card too, right? You have usually a book.
We have a passport where they have all the drink names on it, where you can get stamped at every location. So that has to be put together and printed well ahead of time, because the closer we get to it, the busier I am. So I'm trying to take care of all that stuff. As we record this, I guess we're about a month out, a little bit. Yeah. A month out, so I've already been working on it for about a month. So,
right.
But now all the venues on board, so now it's just a matter of them getting me the information that I need. But like I said, it's a labor of love. I enjoy doing it. Glad it's only once a year.
Yeah. I know I was in Knucklebones a couple days ago, and I saw they were talking about they were working on the menu that they were doing, working on some coconut, coffee, some things like that they're going to do. So it's going to be exciting. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
Like I said, not just from the bar perspective too, but
I'm really interested to see what the non-bars do. That's just as exciting to me
cool
as anything.
To see. Where do you see Tiki Week going big picture? I mean, where would you like to see this thing in another 10 years?
I would like to start doing more educational-based events, and they would probably be a little bit outside of actual Tiki Week, because it's just so busy during the week. Bringing some of these people that I know in from the world of Tiki nationally or internationally, and rum, and just do little events where I have people come in and do more education on the cultural aspects of Tiki, the ingredients, the rums, you name it. So I'd really like to get that going. So other than that, I don't know. I'm just gonna let this happen.
Yeah, just see where it goes
organically. See where it goes.
I mean, it's crazy to see the evolution in 10 years for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so August 14th through 19th, Tiki Week 2023. Yeah, y'all got to get down there, and let us know what are some of y'all's favorites that you're gonna have. Talk about the Haberdasher too. About what are some signature cocktails that y'all serve there? What's y'all's best selling cocktail? What kind of known for?
We sling probably on average around 1,200 old fashions a week. So that's
all right. So old fashions a big one. Yeah.
But and we have a bunch of different variations on that drink. So that's a big one for us as far as all original cocktails. We have one called the Jerk Store, which was from the old location, but it's by far, hands down, it's never left our menu. I would imagine that even if I took it off, it would still probably crack the top 3 to 5 drinks every week, even if it wasn't on print, so
everybody knows about it.
Yeah, that's ginger liqueur, raw honey, lime, cucumber, and a habanero shrub.
Okay.
So it's real refreshing. It's always hot here, so it's not a seasonal drink here, as opposed to it might be if we were in Milwaukee or something.
Right. Yep. All right, I'm gonna come by and get that one. That sounds good. What about the restaurant side? I know especially on this podcast, the Haberdasher, the food menu has come up quite often. From other guests that we've had too. So what kind of motivated y'all to have a restaurant inside at the bar and kind of talk about how that got started?
Going back to the old location in Mobilian, that little counter that they serve from where their equipment is behind, we put that in there.
Okay.
With the thoughts that we would do a small little kitchen program there. It never really got off the ground too much. We did a few things back there, but it certainly wasn't like a full-on kitchen operation. So when we moved to the new location, we knew we wanted to have food. We've got a small kitchen back there, but they are putting out, high-end restaurant quality stuff back there. And I really appreciate that, like my ethos from a bar standpoint is that I wanted the bar to be a place where you can go and no matter what you want. You want a shot and a beer, cheap beer, whatever, we got you. You want fine spirits, neat, we got you there too. Great cocktails, et cetera, et cetera. And in a place where everybody can feel comfortable. And they've kind of done the same thing in the kitchen. They've got burgers and fries, but they've also got steak and pork chops and seafood and that kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, don't sleep on that steak.
Yeah, definitely not.
The cauliflower.
Yeah, the fried cauliflower is a big one. The fried avocado fries are a favorite. That's their version of that drink. They couldn't take that off the menu if they wanted to.
Everybody gets those.
Yeah, and always get what's on the specials board.
Yeah. What do y'all have? What are some specials right now?
Good question. I can tell you some stuff that we've had in the past, like couple weeks. They did a all house-made Philly cheese dip, or cheesesteak rather, Philly cheesesteak.
Okay.
I'm sorry, French
dip. Okay.
French dip. Yeah, it was ribeye steak and house-made bread. Anytime you see house-made bread on the menu,
gotta get
that's our man Alex Tapia. He's a master baker.
Okay.
They did real au jus, which a lot of places you get stuff from a packet.
Yep.
And good cheese, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So yeah, they dabble in some Asian flavors, sometimes some stir fries and things like that, and I think they really enjoy doing that, and I enjoy that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anytime you see something like that, it's a good.
All right, got to get that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
I want to discuss craft beers with you, and we kind of talked about it earlier. Where when y'all first started at the Hab, that maybe the craft beer scene wasn't as big then, and now we've got several breweries here in Mobile, and and so that's kind of changed. Talk about your selection, and I know every time I go in there, I'm always eyeing a new beer that I haven't seen before or heard about. So what kind of goes into that? What goes into y'all's selection?
Yeah, I was a hardcore craft beer nerd way before I was a bartender or cared anything about cocktails or spirits or anything like that. Would used to take my paycheck and go over to Pensacola where they had a much better beer selection, craft beer selection over there, and just drop half of it on beer. So that's one aspect of the bar program that I just can't delegate away. So I love buying. I love being the buyer and trying new things. I mean, it mostly comes out of my desire to try all these things. And I love having access to all this stuff. So it's just like our cocktail program. I want the best for our customers, and I'm always keeping up with trends and what's new and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I really like where we are as a country and as a region and a city for craft beer. So it's fun for me. So I really enjoy keeping that selection rotated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that I've been hearing a lot of people talk about lately has been the Fairhope, the blue steel.
Blue steel.
And the sour. A lot of people talk about they don't really like sours, but that's the best sour they've ever had, and that's been good. What are some other popular beers right now?
Yeah,
that people are
sours.
Talking about
Sours are still very popular. I think
And controversial.
Yeah, I think we've seen a dip from their highest peak,
Okay.
which is a year or two ago maybe. I think on a national trend level, we're seeing brewers and drinkers revert back to classic European style beers. I know I am.
Okay.
I think we hit a high with like crazy, stupid hoppy like IPAs and super sours and stuff like that, and all these wacky adjuncts that people were putting in beers. Marshmallow and you name it, it's been in a beer. So I think everybody got a little weary of that. So I think we're circling back around to, like I said, traditional European styles, pilsners, lagers, pale ales, German styles, Belgian styles, and honestly, those are way more difficult to make than and to make well than these crazy beers that have all this extra stuff.
Right.
Because there's a standard with these beer styles as opposed to that weird beer that has a whole chocolate cake in it. You know, like that. So
we talked about that with David Nelson on the podcast at Braided River. He's kind of talking about that was the big beers. The big names, they've got such a process that their quality standards are they're to a T, and that's what their customers expect. So, but anyway, we kind of dug into that a little bit.
There's still definitely a market for those wild like 10% IPAs that make your mouth pucker and crazy sours and stuff like that. It's just they're sharing more shelf space with traditional styles now, which I think is really cool. So, and
you have a good reputation, a good relationship, I guess, with some of the local brewers and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so y'all have those on the menu.
Yep.
There's been a lot of rumors about upstairs bar at the Haberdasher in the future. Y'all have plans to still have that at some point?
Yeah, it's chugging right away. They're literally working on it as we speak.
Okay.
It's slow, but it's going. We were full steam ahead before COVID. That happened and put a complete halt to it, and as well as like we were closed for a while, and I think that emptied some of the coffers that were earmarked for that renovation up there. But we're back at it. It will likely be primarily an event space to begin with.
Okay.
From there, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to ask you kind of what do you expect to have up there?
We get hit up for private functions a lot, and it's very expensive to shut the bar down, any bar down.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to being able to work with some of these groups a little bit more easily.
Yeah.
With renting that upstairs space.
Okay.
And like I said, we had a full-on bar concept before COVID. We've kind of pulled back on that a little bit. So, like I said,
a separate concept or an extension?
Yeah, it was a complete separate concept.
Okay.
Yeah. Still very, in the line of what we do downstairs, but a different concept for sure. So, like I said, let's get this thing open and get some events up there, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good spot right there. What are some crazy rumors you've heard? Because I know I've heard some few. You hear all kind of different stories about. I heard this is this was going up there. That what you heard anything like that?
Definitely the one that I've gotten hit with the most is like, I hear you're opening a tiki bar upstairs. It's like no, that's not going to happen. As much as I would,
you would like that, wouldn't you?
I would like that, but to be honest, like if I were to open a tiki bar in Mobile, it wouldn't be. It's a pretty big space up there. It's the same size as the downstairs. I'd probably do it smaller and more kind of like intimate. For the lack of a better term, because doing a tiki bar properly, which a lot of places don't do, would be an extremely expensive endeavor.
What do they not do? What would be your critique of tiki bars?
For me, and this is a personal opinion, but when I go to a tiki bar, I want to be able to go there every week for 3 years and not have seen everything on the wall or on the ceiling or anything like that. It's a completely immersive experience. You got to have your lighting and music and everything just right. Cocktail program has to be completely on point. And no sunlight. Yeah.
If somebody's traveling, where is an excellent tiki bar?
Well, the closest super legitimate tiki bar we have to us is Latitude 29 in New Orleans, which was started by the Indiana Jones of Tiki, Jeff Beachmont Berry. There is a really incredible one out in Austin called Tiki Tatsuya that is maybe the most immersive one that I've ever been to. It's absolutely incredible. Make sure you make reservations 2 weeks before you go.
Really?
Yeah. There's a kind of more laid back one, but still very fun and well done one called Lay Low, Lay Lei, in Houston, North Houston, and it's really great too. So those are all reasonably close and cities that people pass through a lot. Atlanta's got one, Tiki, SOS Tiki Bar, which is really good. It's actually in Decatur, and then finally in Atlanta there is one of the oldest remaining original Trader Vic's.
Okay, interesting.
So it's like stepping back in time. It's great.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in the basement of a Hilton, which is where all of the Trader Vic's were when he was expanding his empire.
Yeah,
he had to deal with Hilton hotels.
Okay.
So, yeah, like I said, it's like going back in time. It's well worth the visit.
That's pretty cool. And you've gotten to know some of these guys, I guess. You mentioned there's a Tiki by the Sea conference. That you've been going to.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
That's kind of an invite-only, bartender-focused Tiki conference in Wildwood, New Jersey, put on by some friends of ours. It is kind of a weekender. You go and there's seminars and events and tastings and et cetera, et cetera. A lot of fun. And, only 100 people get to go a year. I went in 2018, and then I did an alumni event in 2019. And this past summer, 2 of our bartenders got to go this year. So
very cool.
I'm really stoked for them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Blast, yeah.
Where's that?
Wildwood, New Jersey.
Yeah. Okay.
On the Jersey Shore there, kind of closer to Philly than
New York?
New York, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, very neat.
And you got a podcast, too. Season 2 coming up on your podcast.
Yeah. Sea Stories from the Coast Watchers Club. Yeah, it's me and a buddy, Ben Hobe, who is also another kind of Tiki file kind of guy. So he also travels a lot, and between us, we've probably been to 24 Tiki bars in the country.
Yeah.
So we talk about that and try to get some people on, local people that have something to say about something related or adjacent to Tiki stuff. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, Roy's got it covered when it comes to Tiki Week.
Yeah.
And all things Tiki. All right, so I wanted to transition to our next segment of the podcast, and it's called Meet and Three.
Sure.
And so we've gotten into the meat of the podcast, and this is where I'm going to ask you 3 kind of rapid fire questions. Not really rapid fire questions, but just kind of burning questions. I guess that everybody wants to know about you. And I'm curious. So your first one is, where do you go for a great cocktail in Mobile other than the Hab?
The Merry Widow down here around the corner has a pretty good cocktail program. So what Jules whips up there is usually pretty solid. Randy at Sidecar does a good cocktail. So those are good. That's a good starting point right there.
Yeah. And they'll be a part of Tiki Week, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to Post a couple weeks ago, and they've got a side of their menu that's classics, and I think we got 3 of those, and they were all on point. So go see those guys down there as well.
Awesome. What about restaurants? What are some of your go-to restaurants in Mobile to eat at?
I'm a casual restaurant kind of guy, so I don't get up and get fancy.
All right, good. I've heard Noja a lot. Places like
Noja's
that.
great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I went there for my birthday and it was incredible. Only the second time I'd been there, but I love going to get lunch at Front Yard Tacos.
Yeah.
Roy is killing it over there. Other Roy, he's Other Roy. He would tell you that I'm Other Roy, but he's Other Roy. He's doing awesome stuff over there. That's another place where if they've got a special, I get the special.
100%.
But even their regular menu is great. Let's see. And now the Insider, all those places in there are great. I've heard Hammered Cow mention a good bit on your thing. I really like their burger.
Yeah, several people mentioned Hammered Cow. That is a good burger.
Speaking of burgers, Rochelle's is still my favorite in town.
Yeah, man, I need to go at Rochelle's. Yeah, it's been too long since I've been out there.
Yeah, for me too. But that's one of my favorite spots. All the staff there is incredible. Their cheeseburger po' boy is the way to go for me. Yeah, it's Gambino's French bread, and they make a patty that's the same size, kind of an elongated patty, but it's just a really good greasy spoon style burger. I like going out there a lot.
That sounds good. Yeah. What about some dishes that you enjoy? What are some of your go-to dishes? Some that you maybe that you go to frequently, dishes that you eat.
Let's see. There's a place that I don't get to go quite as often as I'd like out. Now it's out on Dawes called Taste of Thai. It was in St. Elmo, which was time-wise just as far away, but when it was in St. Elmo, I could just hit the interstate.
Yeah.
It was right off the interstate. Now I have to go through the middle of town to Dawes Road, and so, no thanks. But it's a great restaurant. To me, the best Thai in town. They do a crispy pork Thai dish out there that is incredible, as well as their roast pork fried rice is the best fried rice in town.
All right, there you go. Out there in Wemo.
Yep.
Representing out there.
Yep. If you can make the trek, it's well worth it.
Yeah, good stuff. I always trying to think of, we always kind of center on the restaurants downtown. So that's good. That's good. And that was my next question was, what are some of the radar places that you like in Mobile for food or drink?
Actually, Taste of Thai was my...
That was your under the radar?
That was my under the radar, so I kind of hit two at once there.
And Rochelle's, it's kind of under the radar a little bit. Been around forever,
absolutely.
But, I don't think it's right there when you think of best lunch spots in Mobile. I don't think a lot of people probably think of that off the top of their head.
They open for breakfast, too, and I've never done that.
I hadn't done that.
I can't imagine that the breakfast there is not pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's meat and three kind of, eggs and bacon kind of place, but I'm sure it's great. Let's see. I'm from down south part of the county, like I mentioned.
Yeah, give us something down there.
Yeah, the Lighthouse. I wouldn't say it's under the radar because it's been there for decades and decades, but it's still great. Still the best fried crab claws in the county.
Yeah,
I'll die on that hill. So I like going down there a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the next segment of the podcast is called Chris's Dishes, and this is where I talk about the best dish that I've had lately. And then I'll turn it over to you. You talk about maybe the best dish you've had lately too. But ironically, my best dish did come from Front Yard Tacos, and I got the special. It was the buffalo chicken. Was the buffalo chicken taco? Man, so good, good. I think we've talked about maybe on here or in our Facebook group. The steak and eggs. That's kind of the staple, of the of their menu there at Front Yard Tacos.
Breakfast tacos.
Whether it's breakfast.
Yeah.
That's as good of a breakfast as you're ever going to get. That steak and eggs. But I like I said, I branched out, got the special, the buffalo chicken. Man, it was so good. They soaked it in a buffalo sauce. Come to find out, I looked on their Instagram, and it was from their buffalo sauce from a place in Mexico, and it was a Salsa Valentina. Was the name of it. And I wasn't familiar with it. I looked them up, and the website was all. I couldn't even read the website. It was all in Spanish. So it's from Mexico, but it was really good buffalo sauce. And of course, they had the cabbage and blue cheese, pickle, cheese, cilantro. Mm-hmm. All that was on there too. But that was, to me, that's a must try if you see that one on the special or see that one on the menu.
Yeah, for sure. I love that specific taco.
Yeah. Okay. You had that one too.
Oh yeah. Exactly. That. Yeah. Like you said, using the Mexican hot sauce as the base for their buffalo sauce is really what sets it apart.
Yeah.
Instead of Frank's Red Hot.
That's right. That's right. You can tell the difference for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the best dish you've had lately?
This is a little outside of Mobile, but I've heard you ask other guests about places that are within driving distance. This one's a big shout out for me. There's a Puerto Rican place in Biloxi, not far south of I-10. So if you're going to New Orleans or headed out west for any reason on I-10, you could be there. It's a 10-minute detour max. It's called, I wrote it down so I wouldn't butcher it. It's Lechonera El Flamboyant.
Okay.
It's like I said, it's straight up street food. I think the building is a little metal building, an outbuilding, and they've built a patio around it, and just super great, authentic Puerto Rican food, which can be kind of hard to find in this area.
Yeah, absolutely.
I went to Puerto Rico in 2015 or so, and yeah, I've missed some of those dishes like alcapurrias, which is like kind of their version of like an empanada almost.
Okay.
And mofongo, which is more popular, the like mashed plantains, and their meat dishes were incredible. And they've got Medalla beer, which is I haven't had since Puerto Rico. It's like Puerto Rico's like biggest.
That's their big beer over there.
It's their big like easy drinking Pilsner type beer.
Okay.
So,
yeah, that's good stuff.
All in all, a great experience. All the seating's outdoors, so prepare for that. It was a hot day when we went, but it didn't keep me from enjoying every single bite. Yeah.
Yeah, I've almost branched away a little bit from asking that question because I've stumped a few people on that one here lately. You know,
I did
but
my homework.
I like that question because I don't know, just I like that. You know, I think people are traveling. It's good to kind of.
I will drive an hour and a half for some good food.
100%.
And come right back.
Yeah, there's something about that. I don't know. It's just a little, it's like an adventure. You know, that you
absolutely.
get to go on.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like doing that too. So yeah, appreciate that. That was a good question. Yeah, man. Well, anything else before we wrap up?
Check out the podcast. Follow Mobile Tiki Week has its own social media account. So its Instagram is @Mobile Tiki Week and Facebook is .com/Mobile Tiki Week. So you can find us there. That's the best way to keep up with what's going on. We'll of course share as much as we can from all the bars and restaurants and whatnot that are participating. So that's the best way to keep up with that. If you're not coming down or can't come down or just want to see everything, all the action.
You can take it in. You can take it in home too if you don't make it down. But yeah, you got to make it down for sure. If you're listening to this episode after it airs, I know most of you do. So it'll be next week, and like I said, August 14th through 19th. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to get down there too and get my passport stamped at a bunch of places down there too. So I'm excited about it. And man, awesome job. Thanks for what you do.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And congratulations on your Nappie.
Yeah, man. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, appreciate y'all listening to the Nappie Award winning Port City Plate podcast. So we're super excited about that. And look forward to coming up on the 1 year of the podcast. So look forward to got a lot of guests still lined up, and so we're looking forward to taking this thing another year for sure. So until next time, we will catch you on the next episode.